Hello, and welcome back to the HeckyFish channel. Is it possible to have a baby in space? The answer is definitely yes, if we want to become an interplanetary civilization. You can't build societies on distant planets without allowing children to be born aboard spacecraft. The real question isn't how we create a baby. That process is already encoded in our DNA. It's a multi-stage procedure that's hardwired into every human being. And when the time comes, we naturally know how to proceed. The issue is that we don't yet have the technology for childbirth in space, or for raising a child in a microgravity environment. Ideally, we should start preparing for this sooner rather than later. NASA has ambitious plans to send humans to Mars in the coming decades. The ultimate goal is to establish a completely independent habitat separate from Earth. Scientists are developing technologies that will allow us to travel extreme distances and maintain life once we arrive. But if we truly want to live on another world, one major issue must be addressed: reproduction in space. Giving birth is a natural necessity for any human, including future astronauts who may live in Martian cities. It would be extremely inconvenient to constantly make a round trip of 225 million kilometers over 7 months just to give birth on Earth, then repeat the journey back to work. In short, giving birth in space is the most convenient option, but space has never been a friendly environment for humans, especially for pregnant women and their fetuses. Even inside spacecraft, astronauts are constantly exposed to various harmful energies, including solar radiation, cosmic rays within the galaxy, and high-energy cosmic rays originating outside the Milky Way. Excessive radiation exposure can cause cellular mutations, leading to cancer or even death. Even with the most advanced radiation shielding materials, astronauts remain at risk of secondary radiation from gamma rays and high-energy neutrons. In 2018, NASA launched the first frozen human sperm samples into space, and the results were not very encouraging. The frozen cells were revived after thawing, but showed signs of DNA damage and swam slightly differently than normal. This could reduce the chances of successful fertilization. On the brighter side, mouse sperm stored in space for several months successfully produced healthy offspring after returning to Earth and being used for fertilization. Although the DNA of the mouse sperm had changed, the damage was repaired upon contact with female eggs. The problem is that sperm can be preserved to minimize the impact of harmful radiation in space. But babies cannot. For a fetus to develop aboard a spacecraft, it must be protected from these dangerous radiations. A fetus's rapid growth makes it particularly vulnerable to mutations, increasing the risk of cancer from birth onward. But before having a baby in space, you need to get pregnant in space. As one wise man once said, "Give me a lever long enough and I can move the Earth." Indeed, the main issue is leverage. When you're floating in space, sex becomes far more complicated. If you're wondering whether I've tried it, no, I haven't. And honestly, I don't need to experiment to know it might be tricky, right? The solution to this challenge has actually existed for quite some time. In many science fiction movies, humans create artificial gravity, more accurately called simulated gravity, by rotating spacecraft. This rotation generates centrifugal force, which mimics gravity. However, current spacecraft are still too small, and spinning them to simulate gravity might create more inconvenience than benefit. But in the future, if we really want to have babies in space, this is something worth seriously considering. And producing children wouldn't be the only use for such a spacecraft with artificial gravity. Microgravity can affect the human body in many ways, including permanent vision loss. NASA astronaut Michael Lopez-Alegria experienced a 1.5 diopter, increase in farsightedness after only 7 months in orbit. This is known as visual impairment intracranial pressure syndrome (VIP). On Earth, gravity pulls bodily fluids down toward our feet in space. That doesn't happen. Excess fluid in the skull increases pressure on the brain and behind the eyes, altering eye structure and causing vision deterioration. This syndrome affects about 80% of astronauts on long-duration missions. Worse yet, the vision degradation is often irreversible even after they return to Earth. Back to the topic of creating babies in space. Most people don't realize how important gravity is during intercourse. Science has never recorded anyone shouting things like, "Oh, gravity," during the act, but you'd certainly miss it in space. Without consistent downward force, you'd continuously push your partner away and possibly lose the chance to create new life altogether. But as someone once said, if there's a will, there's a way, and if there's no will, there's always an excuse. Fortunately, there's plenty of Velcro on the walls of the International Space Station. Astronauts could literally strap each other to the wall for easier maneuvering. More importantly, if the issue of microgravity remains unsolved, its effects on a baby could be severe. Gravity on Earth plays a crucial role in shaping internal organs and helps maintain balance and orientation. Baby mice born in space couldn't distinguish up from down, and a human baby might experience the same in cases where normal delivery poses risks to mother and child. Doctors might opt for a cesarean section, while surgeons have successfully performed tail-wound healing on mice, and even laparoscopic surgery on pigs in space. No one dares to guarantee success when dealing with humans in microgravity. Blood might float around instead of flowing out normally, obscuring the surgical field and making it harder for doctors to see what they're doing. After all, if surgery in space were easy, emergency operations wouldn't require crews to abort missions and return to Earth immediately. Even if the birth goes smoothly, a space-born baby would develop very differently from one on Earth. Forget milestones like rolling over at 3 months, crawling at 7, and walking at 9. Instead, the baby would learn to float and propel itself using its arms. We already know that low gravity causes muscle atrophy, reduced bone density, and decreased blood circulation in astronauts. Without strict exercise regimens, a baby's lower body might weaken, while the upper body becomes stronger due to increased arm usage. Even if the first generation of off-world babies is born on Mars, the planet's weaker gravity, just 38% of Earth's, will surely influence both their birth and development. 2/3 of our bodies consist of fluid. On Earth, gravity pulls most of it toward our feet. On the International Space Station, approximately 400 kilometers above Earth, bodily fluids freely shift toward the head, causing facial swelling, a condition known as puffy face syndrome. This disappears once astronauts return home. Conversely, fluid loss in the legs leads to what's called chicken legs, a significant reduction in leg volume. Therefore, a child born and raised in space might never be able to live normally on Earth again. They might struggle to walk, stand, or even breathe properly. Similarly, Martian-born children, adapted to a gravitational field only 38% of Earth's, would be extremely fragile if they ever traveled back to Earth, their ancestral home. All these physical challenges might be overcome with specialized life support suits, tailored for generations born in space or on planets with different gravity levels. We ourselves wear bulky gear just to land on the moon, after all. But even if we solve all those challenges, ethical issues still remain. Would a child raised in such isolation and harsh conditions suffer psychological problems? What if the child grows up resentful of being born and raised in space? And is it even humane to raise humans who may never be able to walk or breathe on Earth without cumbersome exosuits? I don't have answers. How do you feel about this? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. As always, remember to subscribe and hit like if you found this video interesting. Subscribe to HeckyFish channel and ring the bell so you won't miss our silly, nerdy content. For now, goodbye. See you next time.